How's it going, guys? So, as you can probably imagine, I'm very happy with how Week 10 unfolded. We're going to be reviewing it a little bit, but as you guys know by now, it's Week 11 time. Time to get to some predictions. We'll review the previous week through those predictions. A lot happened. A lot of things surprised me. Let's get into it. All right, so this Thursday night game is going to be a real doozy. We got the Tennessee Titans at the Green Bay Packers. Both of these teams are coming off of wins. The Packers finally broke their losing streak against a good team, the Dallas Cowboys. Aaron Rodgers had one of his best games of the season. He was 14 of 20, 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 146.7 passer rating. Now that is an Aaron Rodgers kind of day. Now, as you can see, he only threw the ball 20 times. Aaron Jones had 24 carries for 138 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 5.8 yards a carry. So there you go. When the Packers get their running game going with their legitimate top 10 running back Aaron Jones, take a little bit of pressure off Aaron Rodgers, look what he can do. He can go 14 of 20 for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 146 passer rating. You can't ask more than that. Christian Watson had his coming out party. 4 receptions, 107 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So that was a very solid showing. This was the kind of game that the Packers needed. They're 4-6. So they are not out of the road, they're barely hanging on to this season by a thread. If they win out, then they could be, 11-6. Or they can make it 10-7 or 9-8. I don't think it's complete within the realms of possibility that they finish 9-8, but they really need to go on a tear to make it to 10-7 to really make a playoff push. Because with the way the Giants and the Cowboys have been playing, the wild card is extremely competitive. Right now, not much has changed. The 49ers are 5-4, so they are also, ahead of the Packers. A lot needs to happen. One of those teams needs to just completely collapse while the Packers just get hot. But it's clear from a game like this that they're still, the foundation that made the Packers a 13-win team for 3 straight years is still there. They just need to, execute their game plan, run the ball, play good, strong, consistent football, and, fight through it. As for the Titans, they won their game last week through the passing game, surprisingly. I guess that doesn't really surprise me because the Broncos have a top 3 defense, so they had to do something different. Ryan Tannehill was 19 of 36, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns with a 94 passer rating. This game was Nick Westbrook-Akine's. I hope I'm saying that right. He had 5 receptions for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he was a huge help in the passing game. The Titans seem to always find ways to win, which I think is the mark of a good team. Again, Mike Vrabel is a fantastic head coach. He always finds ways to beat his opponents. In Lambeau on Thursday night, the Packers need to start building some momentum if they're going to try and get back into this season. I think if they lose 2 more games and they get to 8 losses, they're not going to make the playoffs. They have a chance of making it 9-8. And I suppose with a record like that, they could make a playoff run. It's just the NFC is so incredibly competitive. They could barely squeak in as the 7th seed maybe. And then when the playoffs roll around, who knows what will happen? Because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. With the lack of pressure coming in as the number 1 seed, maybe they could surprise some people if the Packers make it into the playoffs. They strike me as a team that can be very dangerous, but they got to get into the playoffs first. And in a game like this, it's very important to win. I am going to go with the Packers on this one because they are playing at home. They had a very big bounce back win. They're looking like the team that was 3-1 at one point. It's just going to be a matter of if it was too little too late. So I'm going to be going with the Packers on this one. All right, guys, we're going to get into it pretty early today because I'm very excited about what I saw yesterday. This game here, we got the Washington Commanders at the Houston Texans. So the Commanders have ended the Eagles' winning streak. Monday night on the road, they led at the half. they basically controlled the tempo of the game. It's one of the most exciting games I've watched in a very long time for a variety of reasons. The Commanders clearly executed the game plan that they wanted to execute. They held the ball for like 40 minutes, I think, and the Eagles only had it for about 16. The Commanders held the ball for twice as long as the Eagles, and I think that is the Commanders' ticket to success. Long, sustained drives, keep the ball out of your opponent's hands, run the ball, convert those third downs. Don't let an explosive offense be explosive. Make their defense tired. That's exactly what they did. They bounced back off of a fumble extremely well with that long sustained drive. It took up half the first quarter. I actually joined that game late and didn't see how they scored. I got in midway through the Commanders' second possession and was like, oh, it's 7-7. I wonder how that touchdown happened. So I didn't get to see it. But they executed the game plan perfectly. This was Brian Robinson's game. The amount of third and shorts that he converted to keep their drives going, as well as Joey Sly, who kicked 2 50-plus yard field goals, 4 in total. The whole team was just firing on all cylinders. Taylor Heinicke, not with his best game. He was 17 of 29, 211 yards and 1 interception for a 66.9 passer rating. Brian Robinson had 26 carries, 86 yards, and a touchdown. And Terry McLaurin had 8 receptions for 128 yards. One of my biggest takeaways watching this game is Taylor Heinicke and Terry McLaurin have great chemistry. The amount of times Taylor Heinicke went to Terry McLaurin is something that they should be doing more. Terry McLaurin is the best player on our offense, hands down. He's the kind of guy that you can throw to in tighter coverage and he'll make a play for you. The amount of times he was open, made a nice quick catch for a first down, like he's our guy. And we need to utilize him a lot more. 8 receptions, I think, are the most receptions that he's had in a game this season. For whatever reason, the Commanders' offense does not utilize him as much as they should, but they used him in this game. And when you do use your skilled players, you see what happens. 128 yards is, he should be having that every week. I really do. I really think he's capable of doing that. And again, Brian Robinson, he did phenomenal. That 1 touchdown was phenomenal. The fact that, he is back to 100% after the attempted robbery is just incredible. If rookies could win Comeback Player of the Year, it would be him. It was a very, very strong game. And you think about it, they put up a good fight against Minnesota as well. So the Commanders basically faced the number 1 and number 2 seeds. And they're 1-1, almost 2-0. The Vikings did come back in the fourth quarter, but the Commanders made a fight of it. And I think that says a lot about the Commanders right now. They're playing their best football right now, and it's under Taylor Heinicke and not Carson Wentz. They almost went 4-0 with Taylor Heinicke. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I think Heinicke's maybe a better game manager. I don't know if the game plan is better with him, but I think they should keep him in. If Carson Wentz is healthy, I think they should keep him on the bench because the momentum that we have with Taylor Heinicke as quarterback is something else. But on top of that, our defense is still, I believe, a top 10 unit. I think that our defensive line is incredibly strong. If you can put pressure on your quarterback, then you're going to do well. Apparently, Chase Young is coming back for this game, which is very exciting. So pressure the Texans there. We should not take the Texans lightly. This is a big chance for us to get above 500 here. And we need to do it against the weakened Texans team. Texans lost last week, obviously. Davis Mills was 22 of 37, 319 yards, a touchdown, and an interception for an 85.3 passer rating. Dameon Pierce is still someone that you got to be afraid of, and I think that he is the biggest chance that the Texans have to beating us. After such a strong win that we just had against Philly, we cannot lose to Houston, bounce back and lose to Houston after that, because that'll take all the wind out of our sails. We need to stay strong. We need to win this game. We need to persevere, and we need to make this run, because the momentum that we have had these last 4 games under Taylor Heinicke is pretty incredible, and I think they should keep him as the starter. I'm going to be going with the Commanders. They're going to go to 6-5. Still not in the playoff run, though. We need a couple more wins for that to happen. So, this next game, we got the Chicago Bears at the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are starting to crumble again. They didn't win last week. The Bears looked pretty decent in defeat. They put up 30 points. And Justin Fields is once again setting the league on fire the last couple games. He was 12 of 20, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception for a 99.4 passer rating. But he had 13 carries for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he had 4 total touchdowns and 300 yards of total offense. And Justin Fields, this is one of the craziest turnarounds I've ever seen, because I remember him just playing bad week after week. But now that they've opened up the offense and really let him run, he's looking like, Lamar Jackson 2.0. Like I said, he's not as good at running or passing as Lamar yet. He's pretty darn close, though, in terms of running. He's clearly a athletic specimen, and the Bears are using that to their advantage. So while I don't think the Bears are going to make a playoff run, I think there's going to be a lot of optimism going into next season because Justin Fields finally got his legs under him. In a game like this, though, I think there's a chance that they're going to win because the Falcons have not looked good. Like they lost on Thursday to the Panthers. You can't have that happen against the team as bad as the Panthers, especially when you're in as weak of a division as you are. You have a chance to make a playoff run here. Tampa Bay is 5-4. You guys had a chance to make it close. Like the Commanders, like the wild card race is extremely competitive in the NFC. Like I said, because of the Giants and the Cowboys. So you need to win those kind of games, and they didn't. I think that they had a couple hot games, but they're going to start trailing off a little bit. I'm going to be giving this one to the Bears. So this next game, we got the Cleveland Browns at the Buffalo Bills. So first things first, the Bills-Vikings game, what else can I say that no one else has said? It's been the best game of the season without a doubt. It had the same energy as the divisional round between the Chiefs and the Bills. The Bills just get in these dogfights, but they never win. It's really bizarre. And Josh Allen, again, not one of his best games. 29 of 43, 330 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, though, and a 78.6 passer rating. The MVP campaign of Josh Allen is slowly trickling away, and it's slowly being replaced by Patrick Mahomes. You'll see when I go over the Chiefs in this game, but I think Mahomes is the MVP frontrunner now. I know it's not exciting because he's already won it, but to have 2 MVPs in his first, 5 seasons starting, I think is very, very impressive on his part, but I digress. We're not talking about the Chiefs. We're talking about the Browns and the Bills. This is Week 11. This is the last game that Jacoby Brissett is going to be starting for the Browns. He was 22 of 35, 212 yards, a touchdown with an 89 passer rating. So the Browns are 3-6 right now. They lost pretty convincingly to the Dolphins, 39-17. Their next game is going to be against Houston, like I said, with Deshaun Watson coming back. It's going to be, now is the time to see if them selling their soul for Deshaun Watson is going to pay dividends. I don't know if it's going to happen this season because if they lose to the Bills, they're 3-7, and there's not much left that they can do with a record like that. I don't care if you win out and are 10-7. That's still not a guaranteed record to make the 7th seed, and that's assuming they win out, right? So, which isn't guaranteed to happen because I don't think that they're going to win this game. I think the Bills, it's going to be at home. They are going to be looking to bounce back after a couple bad losses. They're not first in their division anymore. The Bills were a Super Bowl favorite coming into the league into the season, and they've had some pretty rough losses, and now they are tied for second in the division with the Jets. The Dolphins are 7-2. They're top of the division. Like, that's not good. The Bills are starting to crumble a little bit, but I wouldn't be too worried because they still have a great defensive unit. They still have Josh Allen. They still have Stephon Diggs. They're still a powerhouse. So I'm going to be going with the Bills on this one. All right, guys. So this next game, we got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Indianapolis Colts. Both of these teams had very, very interesting weeks this week. We'll start off with the Eagles. Now, like I said, they lost to the Commanders, but I do want to point something out. The Eagles tried to get back into that game so many times. Like, the fact that Jalen Hurts completed that long pass for that fumble, which we then returned. That tells me that the Eagles were not going to die. They had so many opportunities to win that game. Some of it came down to luck. Like I said, that fumble after that long pass that really turned it around for us. So we got a little lucky in that game. I can't lie. But I'm not worried about, if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm not worried about this loss. I don't know. I don't really care what anyone's saying about the Eagles being overrated. Like, I've seen them play us twice. They're legit. They are legit to the point of they tackle really well. They put in great effort during their plays. Like, there were so many times where, like, one of our guys was about to break something, and one of the Eagles' defensive backs just made a crucial tackle that saved, 3, 4, 5 yards of offense. And it's stuff like that that makes a good team. So yeah, I wouldn't be concerned. Jalen Hurts was 17 of 26, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception, 94.2 passer rating. So Jalen Hurts is going to be just fine. I think this is going to be a layup game for the Eagles to really bounce back and win. The Colts under Jeff Saturday beat the Las Vegas Raiders. Jeff Saturday has the greatest winning percentage of any coach ever. He's 1-0. Pat McAfee made a very good point about Jeff Saturday, saying, listen, he's an interim head coach. Like their season is already, in shambles. He's an interim head coach. He's only going to be here for the remainder of the season. All these people giving trash to Jeff Saturday. I understand how he has no coaching experience, but he's played in the NFL for 13 years as a center, which is an important position, with Peyton Manning. Like, it's not like he doesn't know anything about football, right? So, I mean, I think that players eventually stepping into the coaching role, I don't think is super far-fetched to me. I mean, this is kind of a weird example, but, Rod Woodson and Hines Ward are head coaches in the XFL. Obviously, that's not the NFL, but, I think the transition that players can make from playing to being coaches is certainly a possible one. I mean, look at Frank Reich, right? But he was a backup. But it's certainly something that's possible. And maybe if Jeff Saturday has success, then this could be something we see in the future. Something else we could see in the future is Matt Ryan. He was 21 of 28, 222 yards, a touchdown, 109.5 passer rating. And Jonathan Taylor finally having a good game, 22 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown. So Matt Ryan, I thought his career was over. I thought he was not coming back off that bench, but he did, and he had a solid game. He ran for like 30 yards. This team has new life, but I don't think it's going to be enough for them to make the playoffs, but I think it's going to be enough for them to instill a little bit of optimism going into the next season. If Matt Ryan has a strong stretch of games for the rest of the season, I think there's a chance that he comes back as the starter. But they do need to draft somebody, the Colts. They need to draft a young quarterback. Keep him on the bench for a year or two. Let him develop under Matt Ryan. When Matt Ryan's ready to retire, you slot him in. That's how it should be done. You can't keep doing this quarterback carousel thing. So like I said, I think this is going to be a layup game for the Eagles, rather. It's going to be a nice way for them to get their win back. Colts may put up a fight, but, I mean, last week's victory was a big moral victory for them, and I think that's all they can really ask for with an interim head coach. So I'm going to be going with the Eagles. Next up, we got the New York Jets at the New England Patriots. Both of these teams were on a bye last week. Both of these teams came off very impressive victories. Jets beat the Bills, as you remember, and then the Patriots throttled the Colts. It was the game that cost Frank Reich his job. Both young quarterbacks had good games. Both of these teams are vying for a wild card spot right now in a very, very competitive division. The Jets are 6-3. The Patriots are 5-4. A win for the Patriots here would be big. It evens them up with the Jets. And if the Bills lose, you got 3 6-4 teams. 3 6-4 teams in the AFC East. It's bonkers. So the Bills would be tied for second place or last place. Unbelievable, right? So this is going to be interesting because both of these teams are as good as they are because of how good their defenses are. And without Breece Hall, the Jets' offense is a bit more limited. But I think the Jets' offense has done a lot better than the Patriots' offense has throughout the season. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I anticipate this to be a very low-scoring game, like I said, because both of these defensive units are top 5. You know what? I am going to go for the Patriots on this one for one reason. I think that with a defense as good as the Patriots, with Bill Belichick as good of a defensive mind, I think there's a strong possibility that Zach Wilson will struggle. I think he may throw a couple interceptions. I think Bill Belichick will be able to take advantage of his inexperience, force some turnovers. The offense will be opportunistic enough to score just enough points to beat the Jets. I know it's a bit of an upset here that I'm saying because the Jets have the better record, but I can envision that happening. So that would mean that both of those teams are 6-4, and both teams will be vying for that wild card spot. This third wild card spot really is giving teams a chance to really make a run for it. So I'm going to be going with the Patriots on this one. All right, guys, so a bit of a nothing game here. We got the LA Rams at the New Orleans Saints. Both these teams aren't really going anywhere this season, which is very surprising coming from the Rams, but the Rams have pretty much had one of the worst Super Bowl hangovers I can remember. They did not look good in their game. I'm just checking really quick here to see. Did they play? Yeah, they lost to the Cardinals 27-17. Matt Stafford didn't even play. In fact, Kyler Murray didn't play either. It was Colt McCoy. But John Wolford was 24-36, 212 yards, a touchdown, a pick, 79.9 passer rating. Not bad. And then Andy Dalton was 17-27, 174 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, 62.9 passer rating. Again, that's actually pretty bad by Andy Dalton and the Saints. But both these teams are struggling. Both these teams I don't think are going to be able to make playoff runs. I'm going to be going with the home team here. The Saints have shown that they can show up to some of these games and dominate. Like they shut out the Raiders, which I thought was very impressive. The Rams haven't. If Stafford's back, maybe they have a chance. But the Rams have just been flat this whole season is the best way I can describe it. They have come out flat. And I think they're going to be one of the few Super Bowl champions to miss the playoffs. It's not unheard of. It's happened before, but I think they're going to be an example of it. I'm going to be going with the Saints. So, next up, we have the Detroit Lions at the New York Giants. So, the Giants are 6-3. Actually, no, I take that back. They're 7-2. Giants are 7-2. They did beat the Texans last week, so it was an easy win. However, being 7-2 is impressive regardless. And I think Daniel Jones is really starting to find his stride. They looked really good. Listen to some of these stats. Daniel Jones was 13-17, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, 153 passer rating. Saquon Barkley, 35 carries, 152 yards, and a touchdown. So pretty impressive numbers by the Giants offense. However, the Lions have looked good as well. They have won 2 games in a row. It seems like their offensive powerhouse is starting to come back a bit. They scored 31 points against the Bears to win their second straight. So this could be a trap game. You never know with a team like the Lions. You know, Jared Goff was 19-26, 236 yards and a touchdown, 113 passer rating. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown is back again with 10 receptions for 119 yards. So, both these teams are coming off some really strong wins. I would say don't be surprised if the Lions make it close. I am going to be going with the Giants, though. They are just playing out of their minds. One of the quickest rebuilds I think I've ever seen. It's based on good coaching, playing all 4 quarters, having a strong defense, and an offense that does not turn the ball over. All those things are so important with winning games, and the Giants are proving that right now. So I think the Giants will beat the Lions and move to 8-2. When's the last time they were that good? All right, y'all, next up, we got the Carolina Panthers at the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens were on a bye last week, so these stats are from their 27-13 win against the Saints. Lamar Jackson was 12-22 for 133 yards and a touchdown, 87.9 passer rating. And then Kenyon Drake with a good game. He had 24 carries, 93 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They convincingly beat the Saints, and I think the Ravens, despite blowing all those close leads early in the season, are quietly coming back to be a strong contender. They're 6-3 right now. They are comfortably in the lead in their division. There's not a lot of pressure from other teams. The Bengals can push and give a little bit of pressure. I believe they're 5-4, so I guess technically they're only one game behind. But a game like this is something the Ravens should win and still stay in front because they're going against the Panthers. That being said, the Panthers have looked good the last couple weeks. They may not have won all their games, but they've definitely made them exciting. PJ Walker was 10 of 16, 108 yards, 82 passer rating, and then Deonta Foreman, 31 carries, 130 yards, and a touchdown. So Deonta Foreman doing really, really well now that he's the starter. I think that under any other circumstance, I think the Panthers could have a chance of surprising some people, but I don't think it's going to happen against the Ravens. I think the Ravens are a very well-disciplined team, and I envision that they are going to not have much of a problem winning this game. I'm going to be going with the Ravens on this one. Well, guys, this next game it's funny. We got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Denver Broncos. Have there been two other lolcow teams in the league right now that aren't the Raiders or the Broncos? I don't know, man. The Raiders just surprise me at every turn. They really do. If you remember last week, I said the Raiders have to win this one. They have to win this one, don't they? And they still find a way. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Josh McDaniels. I don't know if it's the team. I like the Raiders too. I think that they have a unique identity, commit to excellence, silver and black. You know, they just can't put it together. You know, it's really weird. And listen to this. Like, the offense played well. Derek Carr was 24-38, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, 99.5 passer rating. Josh Jacobs had 21 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Adams had 9 receptions for 126 yards and a touchdown. So their offense played well. It's just maybe it's their defense, maybe it's their special teams. I don't know what it is, but the Raiders, I think, they have way too much talent on their team to be playing this badly. And that's kind of characteristic Raiders fashion, if you ask me. As for the Broncos, lost yet another game. Russell Wilson was 21 of 42, 286 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a 70.1 passer rating. As the season goes on, it seems like Russell Wilson really benefited from being a system quarterback in Seattle, utilizing the run game. You know, some quarterbacks, you can put the team on their back, like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, to just lead the offense and make plays. And then there are other ones that are a system QB, where they're in their system, they play extremely well in that system, but they rely on a good offensive line, a good running game, good coaching, good play calling, the whole works. And it's starting to look like that is what Russell Wilson is. Because now that he's the focal point of the Broncos offense, they're just a bad offense. To put it simply, they're just a bad offense. And it's a shame because the Broncos defense is fantastic. I think I saw something that said, like, they would be 8-1 if the Broncos offense scored more than 18 points, which means their defense was keeping teams to 17 points per game. That's really, really good. What's going to happen in this game? Because it seems like neither of these teams want to win week in and week out. I'm going to be going with the Broncos, though, because I think their defense is so good that it will help out a struggling offense in Russell Wilson. I think they'll score just enough points to win, but neither of these teams are going anywhere. And it's funny because we all thought the Broncos could have been Super Bowl hopefuls. It's a shame. We really, really miscalculated what Russell Wilson was going to do this season. And it's going to go down in history, I think. One of the biggest fleeces in NFL history that Seattle pulled on Denver to get Russell Wilson out of their system. So I am still going to be going with the Broncos on this one, though. So we got an exciting one here. We got the Dallas Cowboys at the Minnesota Vikings. Whatever I said about the Vikings-Bills game in my prediction that had the Bills in it, you know, it doesn't do it justice. You need to watch some highlights for this game. It was just incredible. The Vikings have made fourth quarter comebacks in more than half of their games. I don't know the specific metric, but they don't give up and they play till the very end. It's a mark of good coaching. It's a mark of a strong team. And they did it again against the Bills. But again, Kirk Cousins, not his best game. He was 30 of 50, 357 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, a 71.8 passer rating. So again, the Vikings are doing the best that they have in years, but Kirk Cousins hasn't been, which I find very interesting. Dalvin Cook had 14 carries for 119 yards and a touchdown. He broke off one for 60 yards. That's where he got a lot of his yardage from. And then Justin Jefferson, 10 receptions, 193 yards and a touchdown. Justin Jefferson is just unbelievable. It's crazy how every year, like, a new wide receiver comes in, like Jamar Chase or Cooper Kupp, and they're just like, oh my God, he's the best, he's the best, he's the best. And Justin Jefferson constantly showing us that he deserves to be in discussion when talking about top 3 wide receivers. The guy is incredible. Still don't know how he made that catch. I don't think I'm ever going to know. As for the Cowboys, they lost to the Packers, but they still had a good game offensively, I would say. They still scored 28 points. Dak Prescott was 27 of 46, 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 78.6 passer rating. Tony Pollard had 22 carries for 115 yards and a touchdown. And most notably, CeeDee Lamb had 11 receptions for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. So again, offense running very well. It was their defense that really lost this for the Cowboys because Aaron Rodgers was able to run roughshod on them, and they were able to outscore the Cowboys. And I think there's a strong possibility that something very similar happens in this game because the Vikings offense is even more electric than the Packers offense. The Cowboys have a great defense, though, so you never know. But the Vikings are playing with something else. The fact that they won that game was incredible, and they're playing with some vigor. And I think that they think they can make a Super Bowl run, and I don't think the Cowboys are going to get in the way of that. So I'm going to be going with the Vikings on this one. So we're coming down to the wire here. Our third to last game. We have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you remember week 1, this game was an early front runner for Game of the Year. The Steelers coming off of a good win. Now they got TJ Watt back. Kenny Pickett was 18 of 30, 199 yards, a 79.7 passer rating. And Najee Harris finally finding his way on this show. He had 20 carries for 99 yards, 5 yards per carry. Najee Harris has not had a very good year. The Steelers have not had a very good year. As of right now, the Steelers are 3-6. So again, they're in a very similar situation to teams like the Packers where they need to either win out or only lose like one game to really make a playoff push here. And with how badly they've been playing, you never know. But TJ Watt is back. If the Steelers start winning now that TJ Watt is playing, like, that's just going to be incredible. I know he's not going to win MVP, but it's one of those things that just shows you how valuable he is to this team. Like, he turns them into a winning team single-handedly, which I think is amazing for a defensive player like that. We haven't seen something like that since, Lawrence Taylor or Reggie White or Micah Parsons, I guess. But as for the Bengals, they had a bye last week. The week before was their torching, where Joe Mixon scored 5 total touchdowns. So he had 22 carries for 153 yards and 4 touchdowns rushing. Then he had 4 receptions, 58 yards, and a touchdown. So that means he had 200 yards from scrimmage and 5 touchdowns. When a guy does that, you know that he's something else. And then Joe Burrow was 22 of 28, 206 yards and a touchdown, 109 passer rating. So Joe Burrow, again, having a very, very strong season. He's really establishing himself as a top 5, top 10 quarterback. Right now, the Bengals are 5-4. They're right on the cusp of a playoff berth. They're only 1 game back from the Ravens, and they're very close for a wild card push. So a game against a 3-6 Steelers team is really going to help the Bengals win and really help them make a playoff push. If you remember what happened last season, the Bengals kind of snuck into the playoffs, got really hot, and then made the Super Bowl. And now that they have expectations, we'll have to wait and see, right? But I'm going to be going with the Bengals on this one because they played the Steelers really hard in week 1. Even though they lost, they played them very, very hard, and I think that luck will be on their side more because that was just a freak win by the Steelers, right? So I think that they are going to win. I think the Steelers are going to fall to 3-7. I think that they're going to be a lot better than just a 3-4 win team. I think the Steelers might go on a winning streak later on in the season. If they knew what was good for them, they wouldn't, just so they'd get some good draft picks and continue to rebuild, because this seems like a rebuild year without Ben Roethlisberger. But But I think the year after, like next season, they'll come back stronger than ever. So I'm going to be going with the Bengals on this one. All right, guys, so now we are on to Sunday night. We got the Kansas City Chiefs at the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers, let me just check. They lost to the San Francisco 49ers 22-16. So that brings them down to 5-4. I believe they are still the 7th seed, though. So they are just barely clinging on, and they got to face a divisional rival in the Kansas City Chiefs. However, you never know what happens in a divisional game, right? Each team plays each other 2 times a year, so they have twice as much time to prepare for them. But the Chiefs are looking like their regular powerhouse selves. Patrick Mahomes was 26-35, 331 yards, 4 touchdowns, an interception, and 129.6 passer rating. 4 touchdowns for Mahomes. That was the highest total of the week. And not only did he throw 4 touchdowns, but he threw them to 4 different receivers. He threw one to Travis Kelce, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, and Noah Gray. So yeah, the Chiefs are not missing Tyreek Hill. They're going to be just fine without him. And Patrick Mahomes continues to extend his campaign for his 2nd MVP in 5 seasons. Very, very impressive. He's just leaves me speechless sometimes. So what do I think is going to happen in this game? I think that the Chargers are on the downturn a little bit. They could be doing a lot better. It's just the same old thing with the Chargers in terms of underperforming, you know, and the Chiefs are firing on all cylinders. I don't think an upset's going to happen on Sunday night. I'm going to be going with the Chiefs on this one. So last but not least, we got the Monday night game. We have the San Francisco 49ers at the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals, Kyler Murray did not play. He had a hamstring injury. They came up on a losing effort. Well, no, actually, I take that back. Sorry. They beat the Rams with their backup quarterback. Colt McCoy, I do want to point this out because he was Commanders quarterback at one point when they were the Redskins. Colt McCoy is a solid backup quarterback. He was 26-37, 238 yards, a touchdown, 96.5 passer rating. He's a great guy to have on your roster. Just going to point that out right now. James Conner, 21 carries, 69 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he was very needed in the game plan. The whole team, in terms of the Cardinals, is just way too inconsistent to be taken seriously. They are 4-6, but like the Packers are a better 4-6 than they are. You know, there's certain teams that underperform and are 4-6. And there are teams that are right where they should be, slightly below average at 4-6. And I think the Cardinals are an example of that team. They are just, you know, slightly below average. That's the best way I can say it. And will Kyler be back for this next game against the 49ers? I don't know. Honestly, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference either. The San Francisco 49ers are another team that are way better than their record implies. They're 5-4. They currently have the 7th seed spot, but the Commanders are half a game back. The Packers are a game back. The Cardinals are even a game back. You know, if the 49ers lose and the Cardinals win, they're half a game back. So still very competitive for that 7th seed spot. That seems to be all that the NFC is going to be able to fight for if the Cowboys and Giants keep playing the way that they're playing. So what's going to happen in this Monday night game? I'm going to be going with the 49ers. I think that they are a way more solid team. I think that, you know, their defense is so good. Their offense makes plays when it needs to. I don't think the Cardinals are a well-disciplined enough team to get it going. So I'm going to be going with the 49ers on this one. All right, guys, so now it's that time of the video. We're going to be going after the playoff picture. So right here, you can see the NFC playoff picture. And as you can see, there's not a lot of room here for some of these wildcard teams. You got the 8-1 Eagles and Vikings. They're still the number 1 and 2 seeds. Seahawks at 6-4. They're looking really solid. 5-5, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have it locked up in a weak division. And then we come to the wild cards. The Giants and Cowboys are 7-2 and 6-3 respectively. So, you know, some of these teams could catch up if the Cowboys go on a losing streak, which is possible. But right now, they're both comfortably in the lead. They just cannot, you know, let the grasp slip from their hands, basically. And then the San Francisco 49ers are 5-4. On the bubble right now, the Washington Commanders are 5-5. So like I said, they're half a game back from the 49ers, and they're a game and a half back from the Cowboys. So if they keep playing the way that they're playing, there is a chance the Commanders can slide in. Other teams that are of worth noting are the Packers, who are 4-6. They're in a very similar situation. They really need to have a good second half of this season, but they also need to rely on one of those wild card teams kind of crumbling, right? So they just need to keep playing their brand of football. As for the Atlanta Falcons, they are 4-6. So they still have a chance of knocking off the Buccaneers as well as coming in to a wild card spot. But with how they've been playing, they seem to be on the downturn, so you never know. Now, as for the AFC, a bit more competitive. The Chiefs and Dolphins are 7-2 and 7-3 respectively. So the Chiefs are the 1 seed once again. Dolphins bouncing back after their 3-game losing streak. They're 7-3, the number 2 seed. The Titans and Ravens are pretty comfortable right now. They're both at 6-3 at the 3 and 4 seeds respectively. And then the wild card situation right now is just all AFC East. Jets, Bills, Patriots. Jets and Bills are 6-3. Patriots are 5-4. So right now, if the season were to end today, the entire AFC East will make the playoffs. And that's something that's never happened before. And man, there's a strong possibility that it will happen. So how about that? On the bubble, we have the LA Chargers and the Cincinnati Bengals. They're both 5-4. So I guess tiebreakers are what make the Patriots there, in their situation. The Colts are also 4-5-1. So they're kind of a game back. If one of these teams, like the Bills or Jets or even Patriots, really starts to just fall apart, then we might see the Chargers or Bengals really start to come back into the thick of things. Conversely, the Bengals are a game behind the Ravens. If the Ravens lose and the Bengals win, the records are tied. I think the Bengals will have a better divisional record because they'd be beating the Steelers. Don't quote me on that, but the Bengals are not only chasing a wild card spot, but they're also chasing the 4th seed from the Ravens. But again, we went over it. The Ravens are playing the Panthers. I don't think they're going to lose to the Panthers. So it's just going to be a matter on if the Bengals can continue to chase them. A lot of stuff is happening right now, guys. A lot of excitement. My Commanders are on the outside looking in, but they're not very far off. They just need to keep playing at the level they're playing. And if they do, they're going to make the playoffs. So that concludes my Week 11 reviews. We got another exciting week of football on the horizon. It really gets exciting now when it starts coming down to the wire with the playoffs. I've been Lampini. I will see you all next week. Take care.